Women talking. Essentially, this is 12 angry men, but instead of angry men, we have about 12 or so angry, illiterate women in a barn. And they discuss important subjects, like re education of men, because men are hardwired to be evil by the system of oppressive patriarchy created by their tyrannical ancestors, who were also men, with penises. You don't need much to be nominated for the Best Picture these days. Sometimes being a crazy activist is more or less enough. Okay, now the plot. Women Talking is an adaptation of the novel of the same name, inspired by the actual events that happened over a decade ago in a Mennonite community in Bolivia. Mennonites, if you don't know, are insane religious fundamentalists who pretend that they live in the 19th century. It must be noted that the real life events that happened in Bolivia are a little bit different from what is described in the book or in this movie adaptation. So it goes like this. The women of the community are being raped in their sleep. They are told that it is probably ghosts or just wild imagination, until they discover that it is men from their village who use tranquilizers and then commit these atrocities. The main perpetrators are taken into custody by the police of the nearby non-Mennonite town. The men of the village go there to bail them out. The women of the village are instructed to forgive the rapists and go on like nothing happened. So the women hold an assembly to figure out what to do next. They have a couple of days until men will return. They have three main options for debate. They should do nothing, they should leave the village, or they should stay and fight. They start voting and they narrow down the list to only two options: leave or stay and fight. The final decision will be taken in a discussion held by a small group of women. A local teacher, who is considered a nice guy, will take the minutes of the meeting, because women can't write or read. They are not taught these things in a colony of religious obscurantists. Their language is quite eloquent, though. Too eloquent for someone who has never read a single book. 90% of the movie is spent on these discussions, which mostly revolve around feminism and patriarchal tyranny, but also touch on the subjects of faith and dealing with abuse in your household. And, life in general, because naturally, it's all a metaphor. We all live in a Mennonite commune. I won't spoil too much if I tell you that women quite quickly decide that the main option is to leave the village and take children with them. You may imagine that we're dealing with horrible ultra-feminism that ignores logic, persists in its stupidity, and follows simplified and dead wrong concepts of the above-mentioned patriarchal tyranny, and then tries to bore us to death from the movie screen. No, this is not what's happening. The movie is not that boring. But the first part is true. That's exactly what this film is about: malignant radical feminism that openly discusses re education of men. Once again, re education. They are one step from suggesting to use labor camps. As you might expect, the film receives very positive reviews from people who believe that patriarchal tyranny is a valid concept and we should observe the history of human civilization through this very prism, or are too afraid to say something controversial that may cost them their jobs, since the Western world is rapidly degrading into the Soviet Union and opinions that are not approved by the state shouldn't be expressed at all. People who express them might be subject to mandatory re education and a humiliating public apology. That was dark. Okay, let's talk about something funny. Since Women Talking is tailor made for nominations and awards at film festivals and the State Stalin Prize, the movie also includes a token transgender person. You won't believe how they handled this issue. Bear with me. So, one of the girls in this Mennonite village decided to become a man after this horrible rape incident. She started to dress like a man and changed her name to Melvin. Now she is a he and never talks to adults, only to children. Well, actually, only once when finally addressed by the new name, Melvin. And here comes the best part. In the end, the female population of the village leaves. Adult men are not allowed to follow them, so the good teacher who was taking the minutes of their meeting is left behind. But not this Melvin character. He lives with them, because apparently he is, in fact, she, just a cross dresser. I don't know how well this idea sits with the academy, or if they pay any attention at all. But yeah, if that was on purpose, it might be a transphobic, stealth commentary of radical feminists on the subject. The left usually chooses to ignore this, but there is an inherent contradiction that pits radical feminists with trans activists. Basically, if you say that you can be of any gender you feel right now, since gender is just a social construct, that makes feminism more or less irrelevant because men and women are essentially the same. And it is only one of the implications of this concept. There are more. Well done, women talking. Well done. So, what have we learned from this movie? Men should be re educated. Patriarchal tyranny is a thing. Trans people are cross dressers. Reading books is overrated. The world is Mennonite colony. In the end, what can we say about Women Talking directed by Sarah Polley? Well, not bad for a girl.